Good morning. A Fox News alert. Iran and Russia trying to meddle in our 2020 election.
Trump and Joe Biden will take the debate stage in Nashville.
That's right. Griff Jenkins is live in the Music City with what we can expect. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Jillian and Todd. We're outside the perimeter of the debate hall of the Secret Service doing their sweep. And like everything else in this year's election, tonight's face-to-face final showdown will be unprecedented in that the debate commission will be muting the candidates' microphones. Now, it's not an all-out at-will mute button. Here's how it will work. After the moderator asks a question of the candidate, the other's mic will be muted, allowing 2 minutes of uninterrupted answer. Then, vice versa, when the moderator asks the other candidate a question. After that period, they move into open discussion. That'll be the format for all 6 of the 15-minute segments. Now, the muting will be done by an audio technician, not by moderator Kristen Welker. Both campaigns had the option to be in the audio booth to monitor that technician tonight, but so far, only the Trump campaign is going to have someone in there during the debate. The president weighing in on the changes. Listen.
I think the mute is very unfair. And I think it's very bad that they're not talking about foreign affairs. They're supposed to be talking about foreign affairs. And I think that the anchor is a very biased person. Her parents are very biased. But that's my life.
Meanwhile, stemming for Biden, who is off the campaign trail preparing for the debate, former President Obama delivering one of his most searing indictments of President Trump. Listen here.
We literally left this White House a pandemic playbook. We don't know where that playbook went. 8 months into this pandemic, cases are rising again across this country. Donald Trump isn't suddenly going to protect all of us. He can't even take the basic steps to protect himself.
And running mate Senator Kamala Harris hammered the president, calling him an outright racist.
That he stood on that debate stage, last debate, with the great Joe Biden, and refused to condemn white supremacists. People have been asking me, journalists, well, do you think he's a racist? Yes. Yes, I do.
This, as Fox News' latest poll in the battleground states, shows Biden leading in 3 states, up 12 in Michigan, 5 in Pennsylvania, and 5 in Wisconsin, while Trump maintains a slight lead in Ohio, ahead by 3. It will be interesting, guys, to watch tonight, because while we saw in Cleveland that the candidates were ready to fight outright, interrupt, name-calling, whether or not this muting will now make things smoother or make it even more contested. Todd, Jillian?
It is one of the many reasons to tune in tonight. Griff, thanks.
And as we count down to tonight's debate, Fox News contributor Bill McGurn says the race is tightening in some key states.
Joe Biden still, is a presumptive favorite in a lot of these, but I think it's narrowing. And of course, that the president did this before in 2016, and he's in a slightly better position than Hillary Clinton was at this time in some of these states. The question is whether he can do it again.
Remember, you can watch tonight's debate right here on Fox News. Our coverage starts at 6 p.m. Eastern with host Bret Baier and Martha McCallum. The debate starts at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss it.
President Trump will likely ask Joe Biden about his son's alleged emails at the debate. As Fox News learns, Hunter's purported laptop is linked to an FBI money laundering probe.
Jackie Ibanez joins us live with all the developments. Jackie.
Hey, good morning. Law enforcement and government officials confirming the FBI's subpoena of Hunter Biden's laptop and hard drive is connected, like you said, to a money laundering probe. In one document obtained by Fox News, the FBI lists a case ID number, which officials say is used by the Bureau to classify money laundering. A government official telling Fox News in part, quote, there is a high likelihood that both the laptop and hard drive contain fruits of criminal activity. However, it is unclear if the 2019 probe is ongoing or if it is directly related to Hunter Biden. Concerns growing after several Hunter Biden emails surfaced from his purported laptop detailing his overseas business dealings. One email in question allegedly shows Joe Biden's involvement in a deal with Chinese energy executives. A former partner of Hunter Biden confirming to the New York Post that he witnessed the former vice president discussing deals with his son. The Biden campaign slamming President Trump, saying in part, quote, He invests in these tainted smears, which intelligence experts say bear all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation attacks, because he knows his presidency is a weak, pathetic failure. End quote. The FBI has not provided information to indicate this is part of a foreign disinformation campaign. Ron Johnson, who is pressing the FBI for answers, sounding off on Hannity. Listen.
The vast majority of reporters are completely ignoring it, and that's a scandal in and of itself. All we have found is verification. We haven't found any discrepancies.
Johnson is also looking to verify 2014 email allegedly sent to Hunter Biden's laptop from a former BuzzFeed reporter to a White House official asking for a comment on the, quote, rather odd news of him joining the Burisma board. And he has sent a letter to Inspector General Michael Horowitz asking him to open an investigation into the emails. Todd, Jillian.
Jackie Ibanez, live for us in the newsroom. Jackie, thanks. And as the fallout continues, one journalist at The Intercept says one of the most frustrating aspects of the story is the media choosing not to cover it.
Good morning and welcome back. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar says a COVID-19 vaccine could be available to all Americans by late March. The federal government is currently manufacturing 6 potential vaccines. Once cleared by the FDA, the vaccines will be distributed to people most at risk for COVID-19 and essential healthcare workers. A New York City restaurant owner speaks out after getting a citation for keeping his cafe doors open on a hot day.
We worked so hard and we were struggling to begin with because of COVID, and it's really disheartening, you know, when your business is already so slow because of this, and then somebody walks in and issues you a citation. He called me up literally, you know, on the verge of tears, not understanding what's going on. You know, and
It's
again,
shocking.
to debate whether to stay open or not to begin with, it's amazing.
Jacob Green's Cafe is in a part of Brooklyn deemed a red zone over rising COVID-19 cases. Only takeout orders and deliveries are allowed at restaurants in that zone. Green says he is following the restrictions. Pope Francis has become the first pontiff to support civil unions for same-sex couples. In a new documentary that premiered in Italy, the Pope said, quote, homosexuals have a right to be a part of the family. They're children of God and have a right to a family. Pope Francis opposed same-sex marriage while he was Archbishop in Argentina. Todd.
Jillian, Democrats in the Senate blocking Mitch McConnell's $500 billion skinny coronavirus relief bill, while Nancy Pelosi keeps pushing for a larger stimulus by the end of the week. But as negotiations drag on, the White House says hope is not lost.
I'm still very hopeful and very optimistic that we're making progress, and yet, our Senate Republicans are starting to get to a point where they believe that she is not negotiating in a fair and equitable manner.
But when will we see a deal? Here with more, UBS Wealth Management Senior Portfolio Manager Alan Rechtschaffen with the latest. Alan, another day, still no deal. What's the state of play on negotiations?
Look, everybody's expecting a deal. If you look at the markets, every time that there's talk of a deal, they go up. When the people get concerned about it, you see the market retreat a little bit. But we need a package right now. The White House seems willing to do it. And what the country needs, what the people need, they need more stimulus at this point. And the president has certainly recognized this. This too shall pass, all these things. But we need to be able to get to the point where this can pass, and that's what stimulus will do.
Alan, here's Nancy Pelosi on the talks. Take a listen.
The president has said he wants an even bigger deal.
Well, I wouldn't even be having these discussions if we didn't think the president had some sway. The election is coming soon. We want to get something done for the American people. I think, well, it's up to the president to convince people in his own party.
Alan, do you believe, as many have suggested, that the negotiations we're seeing play out before the election are merely for show, as a way for each party to show their respective supporters that, hey, we're trying to do something, but really nothing is going to come of it?
Look, I think that you need some leadership on both sides. I think the president has said that he's willing to make a deal this week. I think that if you have Joe Biden say that he's the Democratic Party, it would be great if he could find a way to work with the president, if he could find a way to encourage the other Democrats to come to the table. It sounds like the Secretary of the Treasury has been meeting with the Speaker of the House, and there's some effort there. But we need a deal right now. That's the best way for us to get forward to the point where we can return to a state of normalcy. And that's what this is all about, returning to a state of normalcy.
Meantime, big night tonight. Polls showing the economy is the most important topic to Americans, but it's not on the agenda for tonight's debate. Why? Why isn't the issue, which is the top issue for voters, as you see on your screen right there, 74%, why isn't it being addressed tonight?
Yeah, it's very unusual because the economy, look, we're coming out of a period prior to this invasion by this virus. We're coming out of a period of one of the greatest periods of growth in American history under President Trump. And it's very surprising that we don't have this as a centerpiece because really the economy, the health of Americans' financial situation, which has been put off, the pain of COVID from the financial situation because of the first stimulus package, is really what will be a major force in how people make a decision. Look, at UBS, at the bank that I'm with, at the financial institution I'm with, we have an idea called Wealthway. And we ask 5 questions. And these are 5 questions voters can ask themselves. What do you want to accomplish in your life? Who are the people that matter most to you? What do you want your legacy to be? What are your main concerns? And how do you plan to achieve your life's visions? And for better or for worse, all these ideas center to a larger or greater extent around economics, around the economy.
Right.
So this really should be a centerpiece. Why it's not up there is confusing. And I would urge both candidates, the President of the United States and the former Vice President, to bring up this topic, because this is a topic that is on everybody's mind.
Yeah, it's what the people want to hear, Alan. Alan Rekshafin, we appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
It's always a pleasure being here. Thank you. You too.
Jillian.
It is 19 minutes after the hour. Democrats reportedly threatening to boycott Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation vote. Senator Lindsey Graham's response to their...
Welcome back. 23 minutes after the hour now. Today, the Senate Judiciary Committee plans to advance Judge Amy Coney Barrett's Supreme Court nomination.
Carly Shimkus joins us live with more as Democrats plan to boycott the hearing. Carly?
Yeah, that's right. Good morning, guys. Democrats are doing all they can to stop ACB's confirmation. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer announced no Democrats would show up to today's Judiciary Committee meeting on the Senate floor. Schumer demanded Republicans postpone it until after the election.
Because this has been the most rushed, most partisan, and least legitimate process in the history of Supreme Court nominations, Judiciary members will boycott the markup tomorrow and not provide the quorum that is required, because it is a bipartisan quorum. The bottom line is very simple. We should not be moving forward on this nomination.
But Senator Graham fired back, saying, quote, she deserves a vote. She sat there for 2 days, took all her questions. She's one of the most highly qualified people in the country. She deserves better than this. The committee is scheduled to gavel in at 9 a.m. Now, normally at least 2 minority members need to be present for a committee vote, but the rules have been broken on at least 7 other occasions. A full Senate vote will be held on Monday. The Senate is also set to consider a resolution from Montana Senator Steve Daines to condemn court packing. Todd, Jillian?
Carly will be following it. Carly Shimkus live for us here in studio. Carly, thanks.
You bet.
And former President Obama slamming President Trump on the campaign trail.
This president wants full credit for the economy he inherited and zero blame for the pandemic that he ignored. But you know what? The job doesn't work that way.
So how big of an impact could Obama have for Joe Biden? Leslie Marshall joins us on that. President Trump addressing the rules and topics for tonight's final debate as he rallies a North Carolina crowd.
I think the mute is very unfair, and I think it's very bad that they're not talking about foreign affairs. And I think that the anchor is a very biased person, but that's my life. In the meantime, that's the White House standing behind me, right?
So joining us now with what Americans need to hear from each candidate, Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall. Leslie, thanks as always for being here. We just heard what the president thinks about the debate, but what does each candidate need to do to come out on top tonight?
This is great timing. I have an article coming out at 8 a.m. Eastern on FoxNews.com with this exact list of what Biden actually, because I'm the Democrat here, needs to do. For both, the president needs to be presidential. He needs to talk policy. He came out in performance and policy under Biden in most polls after the first debate, which most people thought was a hot mess. And he has to talk about what he'll do different going forward regarding COVID-19. Joe Biden, the former vice president, he does not need to get down in the mud with President Trump. He had called him a clown, told him to shut up. He shouldn't do that. He should be prepared to answer about his son Hunter. He should be prepared to talk about the 94 crime bill, and he should highlight the differences between him and the president in policy and governing style and point out the failures of the president's administration or broken promises from 2016 to present.
Leslie, let's take a look at these debate topics, and we'll pull them up on the screen here. I'll be curious to see if Kristen Welker, the moderator, brings up the Hunter Biden alleged emails. We know that the president most likely will. I think I'm making a pretty good assumption there. My question to you is, though, the idea of this mute button. Where do you stand on this?
I think, sadly, the first debate shows that it's needed. I mean, this is an election and most people have already made up their mind. Millions of people have already voted. So the sliver of undecided voters that may tune in to have their minds changed either by the president or by the former vice president, they need to be able to hear the answers to the questions and not watch two men acting like petulant children and constantly interrupting each other. It doesn't help anybody. You can't hear, and voters have a right to hear answers to the question and what policies these two men have, what is the way forward to get COVID-19 in the rearview mirror, and how would they govern and how would they legislate or propose legislation differently. The voters have a right to that. So I like the mute button.
Yeah, I think it could actually help Trump in some way, just letting Biden talk. But we will see at 9 p.m. tonight. Meantime, former President Barack Obama hits the trail for Joe Biden in Pennsylvania. Take a listen.
If we pour all our efforts into these 13 days, if we vote up and down the ticket like never before, then we will not only elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we will also leave no doubt about what this country that we love stands for.
Leslie, as you know, President Obama did not put Hillary Clinton over the top. Do you think it's going to be different this time?
No, endorsements rarely do. I mean, you can have the biggest hitters, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, running in your party out there swinging for you, former presidents. You can have Hollywood stars. It's not going to really change. Again, most people have already made up their mind. A lot of people have already voted. It may get enthusiasm. Certainly people come out to see that individual, that star, whether they're political or Hollywood. But does it get them out to vote? That's really hard. You can motivate somebody to get real excited, but you can't go to their house, pick them up, and bring them to vote. I mean, you can, but obviously they're not going to do that.
Could drive them there.
They might get upset if you just randomly showed up at their home.
Leslie, let's take a look at this before we let you go. The recent Fox News poll with the battleground states, and you'll see Michigan here, Joe Biden with the lead. In Ohio, you can see President Trump with a slight edge there. Pennsylvania, though, Joe Biden up by 5 percentage points. In Wisconsin, going to Joe Biden right now, up 4%. We have Pennsylvania highlighted there. Joe Biden, obviously being from Delaware or living in Delaware, being from Scranton, Pennsylvania, he has spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania the last few months. We saw Barack Obama there last night. Do you think that they're trying to ensure a win in Pennsylvania? Do you think Pennsylvania is the most important state to them right now?
I don't think Pennsylvania is the most important. I think it's one of perhaps three of the most important that Democrats lost in 2016. Look, when I was sitting in the studios in the LA bureau before COVID, when we didn't work out of our homes, and basically, I saw Hillary lose Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. I mean, I knew it was over before it was called. And right now, even though those numbers show Joe Biden up, one, you can't just rely on the polls. We saw that in 2016. Two, this is going to be a very tight race. People talk about landslides on either side. I could go to Vegas saying it's not going to be a landslide for whoever wins. Pennsylvania is very important, but so is Michigan, so is Wisconsin. And of course, the typical Florida and Ohio are always in play. But there are other states in play more so now that are looked at as swing states more now than were in the past. Colorado is one example, and Georgia is even being looked at now as a swing state.
Well, we'll certainly be watching. We know you will, and we'll check out your article on foxnews.com when it comes out at 8 a.m. Leslie, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, Leslie. Former NFL player Herschel Walker slamming President Obama for his comments at the Philadelphia rally and says President Trump has done a lot for the black community.
President Trump was the one that funded historically black colleges. He was the one that did prison reform. Even today at his rally, he claims that the economy was because of what he left over for President Trump. Sort of like saying, I got fired from the NFL team and the coach came in and won the Super Bowl, but it's my team that did it. And I think that's the reason they should be weary. And now when African Americans do start getting smart and start looking at the policy, people get angry at you.
Radio host Charlamagne Tha God says there are several reasons why black voters are supporting President Trump this November. Take a listen.
Trump is actually talking to young black male voters. He's directing ads towards them. They are a group that, never get caught. That old Democratic regime speaks to old black men, and they think everyone else in the black community, the black family, is just supposed to fall in line.
The Breakfast Club co-host did say, however, that he is not voting for President Trump, but not necessarily Joe Biden. Charlamagne says he's voting for Kamala Harris because he's, quote, tired of old white male leadership in politics. Good morning and welcome back. With 12 days to go until Election Day, voters are already shattering early voting records across the U.S. More than 42 million Americans have cast their ballot. So what does that signal for turnout in 2020? Trump campaign pollster and president and partner at McLaughlin and Associates, Jim McLaughlin, joins me now. It is good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here, Jillian.
Good morning. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of these numbers because, you look at them and they are pretty insane for being this early. And you'll see some of these battleground states in 2016. These are the numbers. You can see Florida, Michigan, Ohio, and Wisconsin. Now, let's go ahead and pull them up from 2020 so far. And you'll see the difference in numbers here, especially in Florida. Look at the difference in that number. You've got, looks like more than 1 million in Florida already early voting. What does that say to you at this point?
There's a lot of enthusiasm in this election. And traditionally what's happened in Florida is the Republicans have won the early vote by mail. The Democrats have won the early in-person voting. But it's flipped this time. You knew there was going to be a lot of enthusiasm in this election. And Republicans, which has really surprised a lot of people, when the early voting started on Monday in over 50 counties down in Florida, the Republicans now have the advantage. And that's a good sign of intensity. But we always knew with all the everything that's going on both sides of the aisle right now, we knew that turnout was going to be at record levels in this election.
Okay, I hear what you're saying about the Republican Party, but take a look at this number, and I want you to respond to this. This is early voting by party registration, and this is across the country, and you can see Democrats with 51.8%. That's compared to Republicans with 26.1%. Does that number worry you at all?
Not at all, and the reason why it doesn't, because what's happening is a lot of Democrats who were traditionally voting on Election Day are now voting early. The Republicans don't trust the vote by mail system. We've seen a lot of the mess ups in places like New Jersey, places like California, places like New York, where there were ballots that went out in California that didn't even have President Trump's name on it. So what we're seeing in surveys is the Republicans are overwhelmingly, they want to vote in person early and they want to vote on Election Day. There's going to be a huge turnout of Republican voters on Election Day.
Well, and to that point, that's what I was just going to say is, and I definitely understand the argument that you're making there, but that just kind of goes to show that we don't know what is going to happen come Election Day, because you're seeing all these numbers now with record turnout for Democrats. But as you mentioned, Republicans are going to be there ready to go on Election Day.
And that's why the important thing is right now what the president's doing. The president is actually out there campaigning. He's asking people for their votes. He's getting the base revved up. And that's really, really important. Meanwhile, Joe Biden, what is it? The last 6 out of 7 days, he hasn't even gone out there and campaigned. And one of the reasons for it, a lot of people aren't talking about it, but the last time Joe Biden actually went out there and campaigned in Florida, he made several gaffes. So that's why they've taken him off the campaign trail right now. And that gives Donald Trump and Mike Pence a big advantage. They're out there campaigning. They're out there dominating the local media coverage, and that's really going to help them in terms of turnout.
It's going to be interesting to watch the debate tonight, too, with, the mute button at play to actually see, Joe Biden when he's able to have his full 2 minutes to be able to talk and see if there are any gaffes to the point you just made. Jim McLaughlin, good to see you. Thank you.
Great to be here, Jillian.
Todd.
All right, Jillian, a police department